Very simply, it's incredibly disproportionate to the threat that's posed. And of course, different people can have different assessments of risk. And I guess my concern is that the government is so sensitive to the risk that they can't take in this increased load of people coming in. Why is it that their first instinct is to stop flights, stop people from coming in, abandon them to a country where literally oxygen is running out, and not have improved infection prevention and control in quarantine in the first place? On one hand, there's so much purported confidence in quarantine, and yet clearly they feel that they can't cope with the rise in the number of cases. What strikes me as also bizarre is that USA back in January was returning to us flyers, Australians, in much higher quantities of people who were testing positive, and yet there was no talk of banning those flights then. So this idea that we don't have enough capacity to deal with positive cases, if it's true, then that's an indictment on our infection prevention control. And if it's false and inconsistent with what we've done with other countries in the past, I leave that to to your viewers to draw their own conclusions. Why is it that India has copped this ban and not people coming from America?
Well, exactly. On that point, I would like to get your opinion on that, because we, as you say, we didn't see a similar ban on American flights. We also didn't see similar bans or suspension of flights from travellers out of the UK or the EU. What then do you think is behind this decision?
I always hesitate to call things xenophobic and racist, because I fear that is for many people the kind of the end of the conversation where everything kind of shuts down, and yet it's clearly not consistent with what's happened in the past with American travellers, and not to mention now we're talking about literal fines and making it illegal for people to come back to Australia from India. I mean, every kind of screw that could be tightened is being done so. You can imagine what it's doing to the Indian diaspora in Australia, which is finding kind of day by day so much pressure on us, and all our families are quite literally dying in India overseas. Many people are trying to come back. The idea that we're told that the people who live here, Australians who are in India, literally cannot come back. You must remain in this country with a healthcare system that is collapsing. We know that hundreds of people in this situation are classified as medically or financially vulnerable, to have absolutely no kind of no way of getting them out. This is abandonment. So how do we feel here? We feel abandoned by our own government.
Again, as you mentioned, the hotel quarantine or the quarantine system in Australia seems to be at the heart of the matter here. The government says that they are very confident that the quarantine system is working well. However, Victoria has announced plans for a purpose-built quarantine hub in Melbourne's north. This is, of course, dependent on federal government approval and part funding as well. Would you support such a facility to be built?
Absolutely. So such facilities would be purpose-built for the purposes of infection control, to reduce the number of leaks, not to mention they're much more likely to be humane, where people can go outside in well-ventilated areas. And I'm aware of the fact that we're talking about thousands and thousands of people coming back. So maybe one facility is not going to accommodate everyone, but it could be fantastic for people coming from high-risk regions. So this is likely to continue for quite some time. The issue of quarantine, just the way that this virus is circulating around the world, but also for future pandemics as well. So we need to have that kind of forward thinking. And I'm just kind of shocked by just the kind of complete lack of support from the federal government for what's clearly such a